and welcome to the Cancer Journey podcast. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Shariann.
So today we're going to be talking about stress and overwhelm on a cancer journey and how it impacts you when you're on the journey. But before we do that, we will get grounded with our PESH check-ins.
You start.
Okay, I'll start this time. Physically, I am 4.4. Emotionally, I am 4.6, spirit of 4.35, and hope is a 4.25, and my word is sunshine.
Okay. My PESH. Physically, I am a 4.3. Emotionally, 4.45. Spirit, 4.6. Hope, 4.6. And my word is beat, which is really, anti-stress and overwhelm, but we'll get there.
Well, you've got positivity, so it just always holds you up there. Oh, stress and overwhelm. So even though you're in this upbeat space, how is just the word stress and overwhelm resonating with you right now?
Well, I was once asked, Shariann, you're not a medical professional, but what do you think causes cancer? And I just blurted stress, because I do think that the stress is the ingredient, or maybe even at the core of a lot of dis-ease, like we're just not feeling right. We know that all of this inner landscape stuff, our mindset, our emotions, our spirit has an impact on our physical. So when insides are all like, woo, I know people like when I make sounds, it has an impact on our body because our body is always listening.
Yeah.
So for me, it's what comes up is, oof, it's a big messenger.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also not a doctor and I'm also not a scientist, but what we do know about stress is that it raises your cortisol. And when it raises your cortisol, your body's it's doing other things to heal other parts of itself to start to relieve that stress. It's trying to heal you, it's trying to help you, but just the stress specifically. And so that does not often lend itself to being able to other parts of yourself like cancer or just things that your body already finds non-essential in that moment, or not as essential as what it is actively fighting for. And so stress, like even before a cancer journey, as you said, makes it harder for the body to work, but also when you're on a cancer journey. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's also the mental state of stress, right? Which is really where the stress and overwhelm we're talking about lies. It's the emotional state, it's the mental state. Oftentimes, it's that spiritual aspect as well. It really has such a strong hold, and we're often in that culture of like, stress is kind of a good thing. Like, you can have eustress. And so the fine line between there makes us want to push harder and just accept the stress. Some people even find that saying that they're stressed or maybe feeling synonymous with being busy, which is also synonymous with I have value because I'm busy and I'm doing things and I'm stressed. And it's easy to feel like stress is equivalent to like, well, I have a lot of things that matter to me and I matter in those things, so that there's importance there. And so it becomes like this psychologically. I'm not necessarily saying people are actively being like, I'm better than you, I have lots of stress. But deep down at our core, there are some people who very much feel that way. And it is definitely a learned thing. It is not necessarily something that is an active choice. It just runs very deep in us. And stress and overwhelm, like in the way that it links to burnout, is only something that is more newly recognized. And once you hit that burnout, often we become even more stressed because it's our body being like, you can't. And sometimes that burnout looks like cancer. Like, you can't anymore. You have to put something down. I would say you'd undeniably be in the pit at that point where your body is forcing you to put something down, because often burnout actually starts to have physical manifestations. And I think that also brings clarity to like how stress affects the body, and how the mental, emotional, spiritual impacts the physical. that burnout, that needing to put something down and having impact that becomes bigger in your life speaks directly to the Cancer journey.
Wow, you just said a ton. So let me, because there's a couple of points that I wanted to double click on. First off, totally get the mindset that it could possibly be synonymous, stress could possibly, an overwhelm or just whelm, just like, I got all this stuff to do. And having that equate to, look how busy I am. Look how important I am. Look how valuable I am because I'm needed by these people or by this thing. And that feels like a not a punishment. It feels like this seduction, even in a sense. It's like, if I'm stressed, then I'm busy, then I must matter. It starts going down the slippery slope. And I have to say, quite honestly and transparently, when I was younger, just getting into corporate, and there was like all the stuff that needed to be done. And so I'd be like, okay, I'm feeling the stress of it, of performing, getting my work done. But then I was also a new mom, and I'm like, oh, and the stress of trying to raise a family. I thought that if I could truly handle the stress, then I was like exercise. I would be like building my stress muscle so I could handle more because I knew, hey, this is a big load to carry. I if I exercise this, I can take on more, and then I'll be more successful. Okay, that was way back when in my 50s. Now here I am all the way over here in the 60s looking back and going, that's a bunch of BS. What was I thinking? Who told me that? How did I come up with that whole theory in my head that stress is good and that I can build a muscle around it so I could take on more. So it's like this mm, muscle builder, like, look how much stress I can carry.
Yeah.
That's like emotional blackmail, I think. Right?
Mm.
To yourself, that it's like, if I do this, then I'll be better equipped, and then I'll be more successful or more valuable. And the answer is no. If you're listening to this, it's like, no, stress is not something that you want more of. It's actually the opposite. And from the messenger that I mentioned, and I think you were talking about, because it does have that physical manifestation, and it's about some letting go of something. Stress is this messenger that says, stop. This is not how your body needs to regulate. This is not how you get stronger. This is telling you there's overload. There's too much happening. And so if you find yourself stressed out, burnt out, overwhelmed, it's the best thing to do. And my favorite word, and one of my favorite things right now, is pause. Let's just pause and reconnect with yourself, because this isn't the best path forward. It's like, let's find you again. Where are you? You're just valuable all by itself. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to accomplish anything. You are just such a valuable human being. Breathing makes you valuable because you're fueling and providing nourishment for the plants and the trees and the nature, so that it can give back to you with oxygen. So it's like, really, if you ever think that you're not valuable and that you have to prove and earn it, causing more stress and overwhelm, pause.
Yeah. I want to go back to your emotional blackmail. That is gaslighting. That is gaslighting yourself. Just to put that in there. So you're already trying to like convince yourself. And there is good stress, the you stress, and then there's like all the other stress that is not necessarily good. And the pause is a perfect place to assess that, not just telling yourself it's good to experience this stress, but having that pause to reflect and be like, okay, I know stress is in the room. I know I am overwhelmed. I mean, if you're hitting overwhelm, it's probably not good. It's probably not good.
Right.
If you feel even the slightest whiff of burnout, yeah, that's not good stress. But to even take a moment to stop and consider what that stress is huge. Because what I was also thinking is that like there are so many different things we put into that stress, right? Like I would at the Cancer Journey Institute, we say there are false emotions. And I would put stress into a false emotion, that meaning that it becomes a catch all when we're feeling some type of way. And it actually is a really easy way for us to brush it off by naming whatever is here. It's stress. It's just stress. Like, oh, it's fine. It's just stress. But really, there's so many other emotions underneath it. It can be frustration. It can be anger, rage. It can be depression. It can be anxiety. There's so many other emotions that can help you better describe what you're actually experiencing because we're moving so fast. We want to accomplish things. We don't want to pause and even figure out what is here right now, that we just go stress, toss it over my shoulder and keep going instead of being like, actually, I'm really anxious. Why am I really anxious? What could help me release some of the anxiety? I would say if you're really pausing to just like for 2 minutes, just to turn it on and be like, okay, I'm saying I'm stressed. What else is here? Not what is the stress about and how can I fix it, which I totally understand is like a go to perspective. How can I fix? How can I fix? This is not about fixing. You can choose to fix later, but let's figure out what's here first. So if you're taking those 2 minutes to pause and thinking about your stress, if there is joy, if there is like expansive emotions there that are like, yes, there is a reason here. Like maybe you're starting a business and you're very passionate about it and passion is in there, then yeah, maybe parts of it are eustress. And maybe there are parts of it that are frustration too that still need to be addressed. So you can still have that stress. It can be a good stress, but when you take a moment to see what emotions are actually there, or if you're feeling tension in your body around certain parts of it, you can actually start to take out the parts that you would consider stress and just be active and present for what you really want to be active and present for. Because at the end of the day, all of this stress, it's for a reason. You're doing all of these things for a reason and where you want to go. When you're on a cancer journey, you want to support your healing. You want to live and truly live in this space and have connections with people and be understood and know that you have impact and power when you don't feel like you have power over the diagnosis and maybe even the length of your life, which is are completely fair spaces to be stressed about. But there are things that you can control and things that can make you feel better. So when you pause, you think about what's underneath the stress, you get to better solve yourself.
Wow. I like that. You're giving me just another lens to look through stress as, because there is that sometimes stress, like we allow ourselves to be seduced into the stress feeling because it has energy to it. It's kind of like anger where it's hot and it's vibrating. Like it has on my fingers are doing it. It's like right. And if you need to get something done, it's like, okay, if I let myself like feel the stress, like a deadline, then I've got this self put or this motivation behind me to do it. Because when there's a deadline, we feel stress. It's like, I gotta get this done. It needs to be turned in today, or the deadline's now. I gotta sign up. It is a form of stress. But what you said, and I really like this, is that passion. It's like, so why am I wanting to get this done? What is the impetus? And lean into that because passion is much more, it's not frenetic, it's a little slower, it's kind of like a flow. It's more like this wanting to come. It's like, oh, this is so much fun. This is what I want to do. I can imagine myself doing that. And from a passion standpoint, it's like, that's good motivation because it's more like a pull rather than I have to do this. Which, when you mentioned before, accounting, taxes, And immediately stress comes in. And it's like, no, I'm already overwhelmed. And the thing about stress and overwhelm and burnout is that when you're already vibrating at a very high stress frequency, you get something else and someone says, and then I need this for the taxes. And you're like, right? It's like overemphasized. I mean, it's like you just like cross the line and it's like, I just asked for this report. And you're like, or on a cancer journey and you're already stressed out. It's like, what else? What else? What else? And then they say, well, we got to do one more test and see how this is going. And you're like, I can barely have to handle what's happening right now. It's like, okay, it's the cup that's overflowing. We again, I'm coming back to the pause. It's like, give yourself a really big hug and go, hold on, you're safe. What's going on? Let's come here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you said that about the pause this time too, it reminded me of when we had Leslie Purchase, one of our coaches, on the podcast, and she had said, it's urgent, you must slow down, or something to that effect. So that really comes to mind. Actually, when you were talking about the passion that I had brought up too, a very sensory feeling came to mind, and you'd also talked about the seduction earlier, and I think both that passion and seduction can be a big part of what leads us into the stress, right? Like, they are very clear, like, indicators and things that you want that kind of easily lead into that path of stress. And I think the differentiation for me, again, like, very sensorily, as we're talking about passion, is almost like it can feel almost like luxurious. It can have like this, it has a slower pace though, is what I'm like sensing with passion. It almost like I'm getting like caramel, like fresh, like warm caramel, kind of like that softness, that slowness, that there's like a viscosity to it, like it's kind of thick, and it's something that takes time. And it takes, yeah, like luxury is slow, and that experience and that whole thing is slow, like the thickness of it. Okay, so that's the image I get with that. And I feel that very much like in my body if I'm thinking about what I'm passionate about. And there's still this undercurrent of like electricity, and it brings me alive. And it also has kind of like, when you think passion, when you think seduction too, they have this red color to them that also goes with them. And so when I'm thinking about seduction, it's quick. It's super electric too, because there's that attraction, but there's something about seduction where it's like I had to be convinced into it. And
Mm.
it feels very surface. It's very, yeah, it's very quick, and it's like you catch it when you catch it. And so it's easy to be seduced because it feels quick and it feels immediate and it feels like instant gratification sometimes. Not when it leads to stress necessarily. That's not so gratifying, but it is something about seduction that's just so short lived in comparison to this, like something you're passionate about. So if you're really truly pausing, first of all, I think that is more about like, that also leans itself more towards passion because it is a slowing down. But if you can sense the energy that's there in that stress, if there is an undercurrent of passion, that is great. If there's, like joy or something that feels like it can be sustained to help you move forward in this process, that something that actually matters to you, there's so much more value and need and depth to it for your individual self. If it feels like a seduction because it's like a quick buy, or like just a quick little add-on thing here, or something like that, something that convinces you just for something so short term, I think that's like such an easy energetic differentiator that I'm sensing. Do I think everyone else will feel that way? I don't know, maybe. But that's how it's kind of landing for me, and how I want to hold, okay, I'm stressed and I'm taking a pause. What am I sensing here? Like, what do these emotions feel like?
And now I'm gonna introduce a different angle by like deconstructing stress and all the other possibilities around it and the why and kind of the reaction versus the response, because passion feels more like a response to stress when you slow down and you're like, what's really what I want here. And then there's that frenetic hit. It's during a cancer journey, because the cancer journey is a journey of change. It's dare I say, a luxurious time, and I'm going to use that word because I really like that word, luxurious time. And for those who are actively on it may not feel that way, but you have space, you have time. Yes, it can be frenetically stressful, but because it's a journey of change, if you lean into the space, the quiet times that you have, the moments that you get to pause and reflect and just be, you might find there's a different way of being that I'm going to choose versus I'm just going to, keep doing what I do. It's like, there's some space here for me to kind of lean into. And that feels uniquely interesting on a time where it feels like everything's moving really quick or you don't have control of things. But utilizing the signal or the message of stress or overwhelm or burnout, it's like, I do have some space and time. That because what really matters is me, I can choose that. Let's see what's here. Something to that effect.
Yes, I actually so love that. And so this is gonna be my takeaway. What what you're saying and what that brought for me is obviously on a cancer journey, as you said, like it's not always rainbows and sunshine. There is definitely some like anger there, and there's definitely it doesn't feel like a luxurious place to be at all. And I think a lot of times we don't even let ourselves get to that luxurious point because we're so stuck in stress and we're stuck in anger, and a completely understandable, honestly, as you should be on a cancer journey. It's like, why me? Like, what did I possibly do? But once you get to a place where you get to process some of that and not let that be just a giant ball of stress that has these walls to it, and once you get to express that and start to kind of take the weight off your shoulders, you get to talk to someone who really hears you, cancer journey coach. Like when you start to release that, then you start to be like, okay, I've screamed about it, I've cried about it, I've started to let that energy go. And so now that I don't have to hold all of this energy here in this ball, just trying to stay all right with who I am, and thinking that that anger becomes who I am. I get to release that. What else is there? Who am I? And that's where the luxury comes in, because you then start to see, now that I've released all of that anger and that energy, like the walls of that stress are starting to break down. And as it starts to break down, you realize there's the spaciousness to figure out, okay, well, if I don't have time, what matters now to me that I want? And what do I get to spend this time doing? And we've talked before about kind of letting go of the you that you had before and grieving who you were before. So this space is getting to be excited about who you're becoming. And on the journey to that, in this wall of that's starting to break down of your stress, you're actually starting to break down walls of who you thought you had to be or who you thought you were. And you get to completely choose, as you're saying, to try something completely new, because you're not who you were before. You get to actually let that go. And if you were like, well, I always had to have dinner at 6 o'clock, what if you didn't? You know, like it seems like such a silly thing. But as an example, like you can have dinner at 11 p.m. if you want. You don't even have to make the dinner. Why don't you just order something? Like it's small things like that that completely change your routine. I'm not saying that you have to then adopt that and then do that every day. You can do something absolutely different every single day if you want to. Because sometimes we force ourselves to be in this structure, but when cancer is in your life and you're starting to be like, well, does that even matter? Like, does that have to matter? Maybe you find that it does matter and you go back to it. Okay. But you got to try other things and find out what wasn't you, or maybe find something new that is you. And so when you start to release that ball of stress and that overwhelm, what lies beneath is figuring out what you find really fun, or what brings you joy, or what really doesn't. And that clarity is kind of irreplaceable in terms of figuring out what's underneath that stress. Long takeaway, but that's my takeaway. Physically, I am a 4.45. Emotionally, I'm a 4.7. Spirit is a 4.5. Hope is a 4.35. And my word is vibrating.
You said so much, and it's like, yes, 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 yes. My takeaway is going to be short because of everything that you said. So, ditto that. And I remember one of our coaches saying to me after she went through her journey, she said, I broke up with drama. I love that phrase. Just the whole act of, I don't need that anymore. I'm breaking up with drama. And so just the whole concept of I get to choose because it created stress to break up with something that doesn't work for me anymore. It's like, oh, I had a relationship with drama. And so I carried it on and tried to be with it like any kind of relationship. Breaking up with, like, how freeing is that? And that I think is the permission of another of my favorite words to, I love P words, I guess powerful permission pause that empowers us. So that's my takeaway. And my PESH for right now physical 4.3, emotionally 4.6, spirit 4.75. My hope is 4.5, and my word is juiced up.
Like used up, like you used up a
No,
jar.
juice, Juiced. Juiced up.
I feel like even though this is through a screen that we're doing this because we're not in the same place, like we can feel that energy that we both have here. We're both like so lifted. I can feel it. Um, okay, yeah. So thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next week with a new episode.
That you enjoyed this conversation and that you can continue this with the people around you because it's great insight. Just speaking to whatever is here for you around the topic of stress and overwhelm because it's one that we all share. Have a lovely rest of your day and remember, you're so much more powerful than you realize.